Forecaster here again, and we are back for episode 149. And I'm standing here in my basement by the input into my sorting system, and as you can see I have a bunch of drawers set up. These are the drawers that I use to carry the latest yield from the miner here. And I have disabled this gate so it doesn't pull anything into the system, because I don't want the ore processing system to have any more input right now, because it's still processing the last yield. As you can see, there's quite a bunch of stuff. There's some more drawers with things in them that I haven't had extracted yet, because all of these would be full, so it doesn't really matter. Now, the miner also found diamonds, and I used one of those diamonds to make a pair of microchips tier 3, and I'm going to use those to finally craft an experience upgrade. And for that we are going to need an analyzer, so we're going to need one of these printed circuit boards. You're going to need 2 of these, 2 of those. No, that's not quite correct. Let's see, where is it? There. 1 of those. And then a couple of these, and then we're going to need 1 of these. Like so. For sure that was it. We also need an emerald and 4 gold ingots and the other printed circuit board. So we're going to pop on over here and get ourselves 4 gold ingots. Should be fairly quick. There. Oops. Dang it. Lag got me turned around again. I hate when that happens. And then we're going to pop up to here and see if I happen to have any, or an emerald in here. Yes, I do. Perfect. We're going to take this and craft that upgrade. Now, the experience upgrade is used in robots. Open Computers robots. So, you might remember quite a few episodes ago I was making a bridge. And that project kinda stalled a bit. I made the one bridge, and after that I determined that it was a lot of work. Mostly, most of the work was having to swim down to the bottom of the ocean to construct the foundations, and making those also took a lot of time. So I decided that I would develop a robot to do that for me, and that took a while, mostly due to distractions and not having enough inspiration to finish the program. But now the program is done, and it works, at least as far as I've tested it, and we are now going to assemble the robot. So I've spent some time making all of the components for the, and I have them here, and the final one is the experience upgrade. And we aren't going to put this in here directly. Now, as you can see, we have the computer case. We made the first part we made quite a while ago. We have a tier 2 CPU. We have a tier 2 memory stick. We have a graphics card, a Redstone card, our EEPROM, a hard drive. We have a chunk loader upgrade, a battery upgrade, hover upgrade, and this is to allow the robot to hover over the bottom of the ocean because it can't climb on water. We have 3 inventory upgrades to increase its inventory size, and a keyboard and a screen for being able to interact with it. We have a disk drive to be able to insert disks, obviously, to install OpenOS and such. And then we have an upgrade container. And the upgrade container can hold a single upgrade. And the tier 3 container can hold a tier 3 upgrade. And the experience upgrade, as you can see by the color of its name, is a tier 3 upgrade. And the reason you do this is because once you have assembled the robot, and I'm going to click assemble now, it's going to get this going. It's going to take about 5 minutes. Once you have assembled the robot, you cannot take out components anymore or replace them. The only way to do that is to use a disassembler, which is this thing here. I don't have one of these right now. And it's quite convenient if you put your disassembler next to the assembler or an assembler or any inventory. If you put it next to a chest, for example, the disassembler will dump all of the components it extracts into the chest. If you put it in next to an assembler, it will put all of the components into the assembler in their correct slots, obviously, which is quite convenient. Now, however, when you use the disassembler, there is a small chance that, a 5% chance apparently, that the component being extracted will break, which means that it will vanish. So if you add your experience upgrade to the robot as a regular component, you can lose it. And the experience upgrade, what it does is when the robot does things like place blocks and break blocks and things like that, it gains experience, and the more experience it has, the more efficient it will be. So it will make it among other things, it will increase the energy capacity as well as decrease the power it uses, maybe it's just more storage. And as you can see, it's also harvest blocks faster and use tools more efficiently. And if you lose the experience upgrade, you obviously lose all of that experience that you've collected, and it can take a lot of time and a lot of work for the robot to actually collect that. So you don't want to lose this. So what you do is you put in an upgrade container, and then the upgrade container lets you put an upgrade into the robot after it's been assembled. So I'm going to put the experience upgrade in the robot when I've placed it down. Dang, this is slow. So that I don't lose it, because when I break the robot, it will drop the experience upgrade because it's in the container instead of in the robot itself, which is handy. Now, we are going to want to set up an outpost over by the near the end of the current of the first bridge. Now let's see. No, I made another thing that we are going to need, and I put it over here. There. This. A charger. We're also going to need this floppy disk with OpenOS on it. Obviously, because, well, we need that on the robot. We also have the manual and our analyzer. So the robot needs power, and it gets power from the charger, and the charger can accept either RF or energy units. So I think what I'm going to want to do is have a tiny nuclear reactor over there powering the charger, because it's a nice compact way of producing power, and I do have a lot of nuclear fuel. I wanted to go with an RTG generator, which is a radiothermal generator. Actually, RTG generator is redundant because G stands for generator. I am silly. Unfortunately, I don't have enough plutonium. To power the RTG, you need pellets of RTG fuel, and that uses plutonium. And unfortunately, you can only get plutonium by burning through fuel rods, and I haven't burned through enough fuel rods to get enough plutonium to make one of these yet. And also these produce quite a small amount of power, but it's effectively infinite. So we are going to go with a regular nuclear reactor instead. So we're going to want some dense lead plates and things. We're going to want 3 reactor chambers, so 3 basic machine casings for that, and 1, the equivalent of 1 for the generator. So let's grab a stack of iron from here. Let's grab a couple of stacks of lead, because we're going to need a bunch of that. And then we're going to head on over here, and we're going to want to spread this out to get about 8 of those. So we need 1, 2, 3 for the reactor chambers, and 1 for the furnace. And as for lead plates, each of these needs 4. So we're going to want 12 for the reactor chambers. Those. I'm going to put those in here so they get processed after the iron plates. And then we're going to need 4 dense lead plates. So we're going to need 9 for that. So we're going to do that. And we need 4 of those. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That should do. We also need a regular furnace for the iron furnace. We also need a battery, And then we also need an advanced circuit. So we're going to need an additional plate for that. And I'm glad I went to the nether and got a bunch of glowstone, because I was almost all out of that. We need some cobblestone for the furnace. Need 8 actually. We're going to need some tin for the battery. Should have some copper cable on me already, so we don't need to worry about that. I'm actually going to put the tin in there right away, so we get that through. Actually, turns out I have tin plates already. I suppose we'll let it make the replacements. So the battery needs tin cable. Do I have that? Not there. That's HV cable. Let's cut up one of these to get some tin cable or tin wire. And then we do that. I took those out, I think. And then we're going to need one of those, and dang it, gotta turn around again. Stupid. Let's see, should have some rubber in here. Give us our tin cable. Get the item casings. Redstone. And that gets us our battery. We can make this. And do we have enough iron plates? Yes. Should. Let's get 8 of those. And we use 5 first to get that. And then the final 3 and the battery to make the generator. And now pretty much all we need to do is wait for the plates, the rest of the plates to be done, so that let's put some of those in there to speed that up a little bit. We need to wait for the rest of the plates to be done so that I can make the rest of the reactor. So I'm going to cut this out because this is going to take a while, and then come back when I can assemble the actual reactor. So I'll see you in a little bit. Alright, so I am back, as you can probably tell, and there has been a bunch of crafting going on since I cut out, and one of those things is a new industrialist's backpack, because I needed somewhere to keep all of the reactor components, as well as one of the drawbacks of a nuclear reactor is of course that you need to handle radioactive materials when you set it up or when you move it. So I'm obviously going to need to bring the hazmat suit when we go out to where we are going to set up the robot outpost. So I'm also going to need space for that. So also another reason to have that. I also made a new containment box and 2 single fuel rods that we are going to bring. You cannot put this in the backpack, of course, because it's excluded, because it's a container. But yeah, so that is pretty much that. We have the robot things. All we're missing is the robot itself, which should be done by now, since quite a while ago, probably. So in here, we will have our robot, which has gotten the name T1000. And the name is randomly assigned when a robot is assembled. And that's pretty neat. It has some stored power to start with, but it is going to need to be charged. There's a bunch of stuff in it. So we're going to shove that in there with the other things. Now, we are going to jump out of Minecraft to have a look at the program that I'm going to be using. And then the episode will probably end. So I'm going to switch to that. We're going to look at it in Notepad++ because I don't have it in game. So I'll be back in a second. Alright, so here we are, outside of Minecraft, in Notepad++, and this is the foundation building program, simply called F currently, and we're going to go through it, and I'll show you what it does exactly. So first we set a bunch of global or program-wide variables. We get some APIs, some components. These are used to keep track of what the robot is doing. Advance means that it is moving between the pillars towards the next pillar position. Pillar means it's constructing a pillar. And return to base is pretty obvious. It means it's returning for a restock or a recharge. And return and stop means it is done, which essentially means that it encountered an obstacle, which meant it could not advance. I don't think done is used anymore, actually. And then we have the only setting in the program, which is the distance between the pillars. So currently there would be 16 blocks between each pillar, where the 17th is the next pillar. We then have a bunch of functions used by this program. We have a shutdown event, which is used to interrupt the program when you hold Control-C during the main loop. Then we have a bunch of functions that are used to check certain things, like needs restock. What this does is it iterates over the entire inventory of the robot and gets the item count in each slot. It then returns a total, or it then has a total of all of the items in the robot's inventory in items, and it will check if that is lower than 64, which with cobblestone would be less than 4 stacks. And so if the robot has less than 64 cobblestone, needs restock would return true, otherwise it returns false. We then have get charge level, which simply returns the power level of the robot as a number between 0 and 1. Then we have needs recharge, which uses the get charge level function and then checks that number, and if it's lower than 50%, it's going to return true, otherwise false. Then we have the slot check, and I believe what this does is it checks if the current selected slot is empty. It will select the next one unless it reaches the end of the inventory, where it will select the first one. Because the robot doesn't do this on its own. So if the items in the current slot runs out, it won't select the next one automatically. At least not when placing blocks. So that's what that does. It runs before it tries to place each block, I think. Then we have a counter, which is used when moving and building pillars. Here is the main loop. And before this starts, we set the output on the right side of the robot to 0. And we also activate the chunk loader. Then we have the main loop, and so the done is used. It's used to control the loop. So this loop will run continuously unless done is set to true, which, as you can see, is done when the shutdown event happens. We then have a bunch of checks. So it checks if it needs recharge. It will set return to base to true and advance and pillar to false to make sure that they both are false. Needs restock does the same thing. If advance is true, it is going to move forward until the counter is pillar dist, which is currently 17. So when it's moved 17 blocks, this is going to end, and then going to set pillar to true and advance to false, and then it's going to do this, which means it's going to build a pillar. And when it builds a pillar, essentially what it does is it moves down and counts how many blocks, and then this while loop will make it stop when it can't move anymore. And then, because it counted how many blocks it moved down, it is going to move that same amount of blocks back up, and it's going to place cobblestone blocks underneath it as it goes up, and thus construct the foundation. And then when it reaches the surface, it's going to come out here, and these are what allows you to shut down or interrupt the program by holding Control-C. And then it's going to do the return to base check, which basically makes it turn around and then go forward until it hits stop block. And in here it does the restocking, and so here it the block in front of it, which would be the stop block, is going to be a container of some sort, a chest, or maybe a storage drawer containing cobblestone, and it's going to take blocks from that when it is restocking. And then we have the recharging, so it's going to wait until the charge level gets above 95%. And once it does, it's going to continue, and then it's going to turn around again and go back to advance. Now, if return and stop is true, it's going to turn around And this basically, like I said, activates when it hits a block while advancing. Um, it's going to turn around, and then it's going to move until it hits another block, which would be the stop block at the outpost. It's going to set the output, redstone output, on the right side to max, and I'm going to have a redstone lamp or something there, or some other indicator, which is it is going to turn on, which means that when it's lit, the robot is done. Otherwise, it is restocking or recharging. And then it deactivates the chunk loader and then shuts itself down. And when the robot shuts down, the redstone output remains on, which is handy. Otherwise, I would have to have a toggle latch or something in between the robot and the lamp. And then it sets done to true, which is kind of useless because it's shutting down anyway. But yeah, so that's the program. Probably not the best written thing as usual, but it's what I produced, and as far as I've tested, it works. Hopefully it'll work in my Let's Play world as well, without any hitches. The one problem I think I encountered was I think yes, no, I fixed that already. I encountered a problem while testing where the robot suddenly didn't reach the surface properly when it was going up after having built, or while building a pillar. So that it then started going through the water to the next pillar, and it was one block too low. And I think that was because it hit a squid on the way up, which meant, because the robot cannot move if there is an entity or a block in the way. So it messed up the counter. So it thought it assumed it had moved up when it really hadn't. So I think this, if it fails to move up, it is going to continue trying until it succeeds, and then it's going to continue building the pillar or foundation. So hopefully that works. Now, unfortunately, we have reached the end of this episode, and I didn't expect this to be 2 parts. As usual, I underestimated how long stuff takes. So, in the next one, we are going to head out to where the current bridge ends. We're going to bring a train full of cobblestone, and I'll probably continue building the railway across the landmass to where the next bridge will start, so we have an easy way to bring more stuff when we need it, and travel there ourselves, of course. I'm also going to want to go collect the chunk loader, the world anchor, from the miner to put at the outpost so we have it loaded, so we're generating power. But yeah, so with that, I will see you in the next episode.